Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Gushin Galan, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. Indian and Chinese militaries hold talks to manage tensions along their shared Himalayan border, agreeing to use existing mechanisms to resolve ground issues. The discussions follow last year's agreement to ease military tensions that spiked after a deadly 2020 clash. Israel reinstates the Gaza ceasefire after launching a wave of strikes on dozens of targets, saying the action was in response to Hamas violations. The Israeli military says it hit 30 commanders linked to armed groups in the Gaza Strip before restoring the truce. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina says millions of Awami League supporters will boycott next year's national elections after her party is barred from contesting. Speaking from New Delhi, Hasina says she won't return home under any government formed without her party's participation. Donald Trump's social media platform, Truth Social, announces it will soon allow users to bet on real-world events from elections to gold prices through a partnership with Crypto.com. And Colombia authorizes the domestic sale of medical marijuana, closing a legal loophole that restricted its use despite earlier legalization. The government now gives its health, justice and agriculture ministers 5 months to roll out regulations to make the new policy official. First, let's talk about a storm that is making headlines. Hurricane Melissa has made landfall in Cuba. Before hitting Cuba, it weakened to a Category 3 storm from Category 5. Still, the U.S. National Hurricane Center warns that Melissa is expected to remain a powerful hurricane when it moves across Cuba and the Bahamas and passes near Bermuda. More than 600,000 people have been evacuated in Cuba. The city of Santiago de Cuba experienced severe flooding before the hurricane's landfall. Before Cuba, Melissa left a trail of destruction across Jamaica on Tuesday. It is being touted as one of the most powerful storms ever recorded on the island. The monster hurricane, packing sustained winds of up to 185 miles per hour at its peak, tore across Jamaica for hours. In its path, the storm flattened homes, flooded entire districts, and plunged communities into darkness. Jamaican Prime Minister declared the entire nation a disaster area, urging residents to stay indoors. Heavy rains and deadly landslides continued along the storm's core had passed. Large swathes of the island remain without power and communication networks have been severely disrupted, complicating rescue and assessment efforts. The St. Elizabeth district, often referred to as Jamaica's breadbasket, has suffered major agricultural losses.
Jamaica has gone through what I can call one of its worst periods. Our infrastructure has been severely compromised. St. Elizabeth is the breadbasket of the country, and that has taken a beating. The entire Jamaica has felt the brunt of Melissa.
Across Kingston and beyond, residents describe scenes of devastation. Listen in.
I'm really sorry for who it really touched, because they're my fellow Jamaicans and we are love, right? And you know our motto, to many young people, we are one. So we're really sorry, really, who get damaged, but trust me, it's not no joke. It's not no joke.
I mean, I ain't never been through nothing like this before, so it's kind of scary trying to get back to my kids. But I guess we gotta wait it out and hope for the best.
The scale of destruction remains uncertain, but officials have already confirmed at least 7 deaths across the Caribbean. 3 in Jamaica, 3 in Haiti, and 1 in the Dominican Republic. Jamaica's climate change minister called the storm's impact catastrophic, citing severely damaged public infrastructure and flooded hospitals. Thousands of people have been displaced and an aid agency are struggling to reach isolated communities. The United Nations announced plans to airlift 2,000 emergency relief kits from Barbados to Jamaica once conditions allow, with additional assistance for Cuba and Haiti. The Jamaican Red Cross said the storm's slow grinding nature worsened the trauma, forcing people to endure hours of relentless winds and pounding rain. Scientists have warned that storms like Melissa are becoming more frequent and ferocious due to human-induced climate change. Melissa is the third Category 5 storm of the Atlantic hurricane season this year. We'll keep track of what unfolds in Cuba in the storm's aftermath. Now moving on to Washington, which has experienced its military campaign against drug trafficking. The United States military has carried out another round of strikes under President Trump's directive, targeting suspected drug smuggling boats. According to U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the strikes on Monday hit 4 boats in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing 14 people and leaving 1 survivor. Mexican authorities have taken charge of the search and rescue operation for the survivor. This was the first instance of multiple strikes being carried out on the same day since the campaign began in early September. The U.S. military has now conducted 13 known strikes, destroying 14 boats and killing at least 57 people so far. Only 3 survivors have been reported. Defense Secretary Hegseth said the latest operations were conducted at the direction of President Donald Trump and involved vessels that were moving along known drug trafficking routes and carrying narcotics. Most of the earlier strikes took place in the Caribbean, near the coasts of South America, but the U.S. has recently expanded its focus to the Pacific Ocean. According to latest data from the Drug Enforcement Administration, about 74% of the cocaine shipments in 2019 moved through the Pacific, mainly from Colombia and Ecuador, compared with 24% through the Caribbean. Now, Monday's strikes come a week after the first U.S. operation in the Eastern Pacific, which indicated a broadening of the campaign beyond the Caribbean. In one of the earlier incidents this month, 2 survivors from a similar strike in the Caribbean were detained by the U.S. Navy, but were later repatriated to their home countries of Ecuador and Colombia. Officials said this was due to uncertainty over what legal authority the U.S. military would have to hold them indefinitely. After the latest strikes, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum confirmed that her government had been informed about the operation and about the survivor. She also said that the incident took place in international waters. The Mexican president had earlier condemned the strikes. Listen in.
Well, obviously we do not agree. There are international laws on how to operate when dealing with the alleged illegal transport of drugs or guns on international waters, and we have expressed this publicly to the government of the United States.
The campaign has caused increasing tension between the United States and several Latin American countries, particularly Colombia and Venezuela. The U.S. government has imposed sanctions on Colombian President Gustavo Petro, accusing him of not taking sufficient action against drug cartels.
There's no need to fire missiles. It's absolutely ineffective. And this action doesn't seem to be really aimed at seizing cocaine, but rather at an invasion, which is also absurdly illegal and has more of an objective oil than defending American society from illicit drugs.
Now in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro has been accused of Washington of leading a drug trafficking organization, an allegation he continuously denies. In parallel, the U.S. has strengthened its military presence in the Caribbean, deploying additional troops, aircraft and naval vessels. President Trump has stated that he has the legal authority to continue targeting vessels in the international waters, but has suggested that he might seek congressional approval if the campaign is extended to include land-based targets.
Yes, we do. We have legal authority. Right? We're allowed to do that. And if we do by land, we may go back to Congress. But this is a national security problem. They killed 300,000 people last year, these drugs coming in. They killed 300,000 Americans last year, and that gives you legal authority.
As the operations expand and more countries become involved in their aftermath, the question now is how much further this campaign will go and what form it will take in the coming months. Now shifting focus to East Asia. President Donald Trump has arrived in South Korea, his first visit in 6 years as part of his Asia tour. Trump landed in South Korea on Wednesday for the final leg of his Asia tour. South Korea has bestowed his highest civilian honor to the U.S. president. The award was presented in recognition of his efforts to advance peace on the Korean peninsula, capping a lavish welcome ceremony in the historic city of Jeonju. Trump was also presented with a replica of a gold crown worn by South Korean kings, the gift described as the largest and most extravagant of the existing gold crowns from the era. During his talks with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, Trump spoke about defense cooperation and economic partnership. He said the Korean Peninsula is officially at war, but he says he will see what we can do to straighten it out. Trump also referred to his past dealings with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, saying he knows him very well and hopes to resume dialogue soon. He also praised Seoul's partnership in industrial and defense cooperation. Trump said the US and South Korea plan to collaborate closely on shipbuilding and defense technology, calling the alliance a special bond built on mutual trust. Earlier, during his keynote address at the APEC CEO luncheon, Trump called for fair and reciprocal trade partnership. He underscored the importance of US innovation, economic sovereignty and balanced trade frameworks, adding that a trade deal with South Korea could be finalized very soon.
The deal with the Republic of Korea will be finalized very soon, like moments or very shortly thereafter. These agreements will be incredible victories for all of us.
Meanwhile, protests erupted in Seoul ahead of Trump's visit. Demonstrators gathered in downtown areas chanting "No Kings" and carrying placards reading "Trump not welcome."
Korean workers believe that Korea has been under U.S. domination for a long time since liberation. Now, it's time to end that. They are angry because Trump's visit to Korea is not about attending APEC. It is about pressuring South Korea into investing in the U.S. and accepting the tariffs. That's why they've come to Jeonju feeling outrage about the visit.
Now, hours before Trump's arrival, North Korea announced it had successfully test-fired nuclear-capable cruise missiles from sea to surface. The missiles reportedly flew for over 2 hours before striking targets in country's western waters. Pyongyang said the tests were part of efforts to expand the operation reach of its nuclear forces. Trump's visit to South Korea sets the stage for high-stakes diplomacy, from trade talks with Seoul to his much-anticipated meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday. And finally, on to some tech news. Apple touched a new financial milestone, becoming the third major technology company in the world to reach a market value of $4 trillion. The company's shares rose slightly in early trading on Tuesday, touching a record high of around $269, driven by strong demand for its latest iPhone models. This marks the first time Apple has hit $4 trillion mark, putting it alongside Microsoft and Nvidia in the league of the world's most valuable companies. The recent rise in Apple's stock price has been largely powered by the success of its iPhone 17 series, which was launched in September. Upon the launch of the latest iPhones, videos emerged from across the world showing customer optimism over the series. Several Apple stores saw long lines, with some customers waiting since midnight to buy the new devices.
We woke up at 3 a.m. and came here to like 4 a.m. It's already 3 hours, not that long. I thought that it will be more people here, but it's chill. It's like I'm very impressed by this whole situation. I'm not from USA. I came here from Poland, so yeah, it's very cool, very cool.
Recent data shows that iPhone 17 lineup has outsold the previous iPhone 16 range by about 14% during the first 10 days of sale in both the United States and China, two of Apple's biggest markets. One particular model, the ultra-slim iPhone Air, has drawn significant attention and is seen as Apple's response to growing competition from Samsung. The strong performance of these new devices has helped lift Apple's share price by about 13% since their launch, reversing the company's earlier declines this year. Apple shares have risen around 6% over the span of a month. In the last 6 months alone, the stock has climbed more than 27%, adding roughly $1.4 trillion in market value since April. Another key factor behind this turnaround is that fears over US tariffs have eased. Earlier this year, investors were concerned that higher import duties on Apple products made outside the United States could affect sales and profitability. But the company's gradual shift of its supply chain to countries like India and Vietnam has helped reduce that risk. Maintaining a cooperative relationship with US policymakers on domestic manufacturing has also played a role in calming investor sentiment. Analysts say Apple's strong iPhone sales in major markets have helped offset investor worries about its slower progress in artificial intelligence. While companies like Microsoft and Google have been aggressive in pushing AI tools and products, Apple's AI strategy has been more cautious. Its Apple Intelligence features, including ChatGPT integration, are being rolled out gradually, and the planned AI-powered upgrade to Siri has been postponed until next year. Reports of several senior AI executives moving to Meta have also added to these concerns. Meanwhile, Microsoft shares also rose this week, reaching a market value of just over $4 trillion as well. The company's stock gained after it announced a deal to restructure OpenAI, in which Microsoft holds a significant stake. However, Microsoft and Apple, which currently has a market cap of $3.99 trillion, are both trailing behind Nvidia, which has a market capitalization of more than $4.6 trillion. For Apple, this moment highlights both its enduring strength in hardware and the challenges it faces in adapting to technology landscape increasingly defined by artificial intelligence. The company has reached a major financial peak, but the question ahead is whether innovation, not just sales, will sustain its position at the top. That's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gusheen Gala, and we'll see you right back here at the same time. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned for